Thank you for coming out today to Langdon neighborhood for a part of Ward 5 and the site of our small diameter water main replacement project financed by our WIFIA loan. Councilmember McDuffie, I want to thank you for hosting us this morning in one of the most fantastic wards we have here in the district. But as the mayor said earlier when she walked up, it's just a great city overall. So the best city. I gotcha. And I also want to thank Congresswoman Norton for your attendance today and your unwavering support of DC Water at all times. To Mayor Bowser, I want to thank you for partnering with us to improve the district's infrastructure and provide financial assistance to our customers and your constituents. So thank you very much. To our board member, Tommy Wells, I want to thank you for your great leadership and your partnership. Since me arriving here in D.C., you have been a great partner and great to work with, and I appreciate you. And a special thank you to our EPA Administrator, Michael Regan, for choosing D.C. Water for the District of Columbia as one of your first events since arriving at EPA. So thank you very much. It is a privilege for me to be here with you this morning, with these distinguished guests. But the greater privilege is being able to lead DC Water as we embark on a $150 million worth of vital infrastructure improvements across all 8 wards in the district. These projects will collectively support more than 1,000 jobs, will ensure the delivery of safe, clean drinking water and improve fire and safety, and ensure that our schools, businesses, and communities are served by new pipes, and most notably will improve the quality of life for our most vulnerable communities. This effort is made possible thanks to a brilliant program managed by the EPA, which administers the WIFIA loan to the benefit of water systems across the country and the members of Team Blue that work to pursue this funding. I want to thank you all for your work and this opportunity. At DC Water, this funding provides for a system-wide comprehensive infrastructure repair, rehabilitation, and replacement program. It funds small diameter water main replacements such as this site that we're on today, wastewater treatment plant upgrades, and sewer rehabilitation projects, all necessary for us to provide critical services that are vital to public health. As an authority which, like the district, is focused on resilience and also reliability of service, this investment is a critical component to our efforts to replace aging infrastructure that we constantly on a day-to-day basis attempt to manage. We are a city with a lot of history, but also the water and the wastewater network that is in many cases that dates back to more than a century. The pipes that are in this system where we sit today, most of them were installed back in the early 1914 or the early 1900s. The upgrades will improve water quality and the quality of life for residents here, and at a discounted cost, allowing us to achieve intergenerational equity. I know that Administrator Regan and Mayor Bowser share my commitment to equality and equity. And for us, this means maximizing the benefits of water infrastructure investment and the community, and ensuring that all customers have access to clean, affordable water at all times. Using equity as a guiding principle, these investments underscore our commitment to improve public health, provide high-quality water services, and create jobs and ensure equity in water affordability. We are indeed making an impact here in this neighborhood and across the district, thanks to this loan and our partnership with EPA. Please join me in thanking and welcoming Administrator Michael Regan.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to thank David for those kind words and those inspiring words. And I want to thank the entire DC Water team for hosting this event. Mayor Bowser, Congresswoman Norton, Chairman Wells, and Councilmember McDuffie. It's great to be with all of you today. And it's great, and I'm thankful for you joining my first in-person event.
All right.
You know, EPA's water infrastructure program has shown time and time again that we can partner with local communities to improve public health, to protect the environment, and create good paying jobs while setting the stage for long-term economic development. Together, we can also make progress closing the gap, the equity gap, for communities in need of addressing the climate crisis as well. Working very closely with our state and local partners, EPA's water infrastructure program, financing programs, have an established track record. Since their inception, EPA's state revolving funds have provided more than $189 billion in financial assistance to nearly 60,000 water quality infrastructure and drinking water projects. And as of today, EPA will have closed 49 WIFIA loans that are providing over $9 billion in credit assistance to help finance nearly $20 billion for water infrastructure projects, saving customers across the nation over $4 billion. We're proud to announce today that we're partnering with DC Water to provide a $156 million WIFIA loan for the critical infrastructure repairs to the district's water and sewer system. This project will improve drinking water distribution by upgrading the main pumps that serve roughly 700,000 DC residents, including communities of color and low-income communities. The funding will help upgrade stormwater systems to protect the ecologically vibrant Anacostia and Potomac rivers from sewage contamination. And this WIFIA loan will also save DC Water over $30 million. We need more partnerships like this in communities all across the country. Partnerships like this illustrate that environmental protection and economic prosperity are not mutually exclusive, but they go hand in hand, a cornerstone of President Biden's American Jobs Plan. Through programs like these, EPA is supporting projects to remove lead from drinking water, improve wastewater management from reducing combined sewer overflows, upgrading biosolids processing for beneficial reuse, and enhancing and strengthening our water pipes, water supplies, and water infrastructure. At the same time, we're continuing to spur good-paying jobs and economic development all across the country. EPA estimates that in the last 2 years alone, the drinking water and clean water state revolving funds have created over 300,000 jobs. And the 49 WIFIA loans are creating another estimated 49,000 jobs. And here in D.C., the Comprehensive Infrastructure Repair and Rehabilitation and Replacement Program will create 1,000 jobs. The American Jobs Plan would build on these successes by proposing an unprecedented $111 billion investment in water infrastructure all across the country. That investment could create hundreds of thousands of jobs while revitalizing America's aging water infrastructure for the next century. The American Jobs Plan also proposes removing 100% of lead pipes, which can cause irreversible and lifelong health effects, especially in our children, including decreased IQ, reduced focus, and lower academic achievement. Eliminated all of these antiquated lead pipes and service lines would protect the health and safety of future generations. It would also benefit communities of color and low-income communities that are disproportionately exposed to lead. To achieve this historic goal, the plan includes $45 billion that would go to EPA's State Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund and water infrastructure improvements for the nation's ACT grants. The American Jobs Plan would also upgrade and modernize America's drinking water, wastewater, and stormwater systems, tackling new water contaminants and support clean water infrastructure across rural America through $56 billion in grants or loans that would scale up existing successful programs like this one here in the district. And it would also allow EPA to continue supporting investments in our future water workforce who are essential to assuring Americans have safe drinking water and wastewater services. And as mentioned, it also focuses on equity. With strategic partnerships like this one, investing in water infrastructure can help advance environmental justice by closing the water equity gap. While we're fortunate to have centralized water systems that serve most of the population, we must address systemic inequities that affect communities of color and low-income communities. We must strive to ensure that infrastructure improvements reach people, families, and neighborhoods that need them the most, and that our efforts support water affordability. Here in D.C., the savings provided by EPA's WIFIA loan will help the district meet its water affordability goals and continue its support for assistance programs to support those customers that are in need. Our work is not complete until everyone in the United States has access to safe drinking water that meets EPA standards, no matter the color of their skin, how much money they have in their pockets, or the zip code they live in. Our experience shows that investing in water is one of the best decisions that we can make as a nation for public health, for environmental protection, for short-term and long-term job creation, and for laying the foundation for future economic vitality in our communities. Congratulations to DC Water, and thank you for your leadership, and thank you for your commitment to improving water infrastructure and protecting the health and well-being of the community that you serve. It's now my pleasure to introduce someone who I've long admired, Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, EPA Administrator Reagan, for those very elusive. Thank you for that very important introduction for this important education. Mayor Bowser, Councilmember McDuffie, DC Board Chair Tommy Wells, and DC Water CEO Walter Gaddis. This is a terrific event for the District of Columbia. I must tell you, I'm so glad we're not zooming it. That we're not wasting this terrific weather to get out. I hope most of you are close to your 2 shots and are not discouraged by having to be inside for so long. We are very, very fortunate that we had a good day for this event about clean water under clean air. Makes it all worthwhile. In my own role as on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, and I am chair of one of its largest subcommittee, I pushed hard to ensure the Water Resources Development Act, that is the bill that has enabled this, to ensure that it included in December, it was included in the December COVID bill. Without that legislation, we could not be here today. This WIFIA loan will provide huge benefits for district residents. This $150 million loan will allow DC Water to not only improve service and make infrastructure improvements, but will actually save customers money. I also want to congratulate DC Water on achieving the financial success necessary to be eligible for such a loan. S&P Global Ratings gave DC Water a AAA rating and lauded DC Water's sustainable financial performance in awarding this high rating. Congratulations, DC Water. Here in the district, we are not only responsible for the more than 700,000 residents, but also for 21.3 million visitors who visit the nation's capital every year. This loan from the federal government allows DC Water to make critical improvements that will ensure that residents of the nation's capital and all who visit will have access to clean water. Despite what some of my friends on the other side of the aisle say, clean water is infrastructure. Upgrading water mains and pumps provides better public health protection and improvements to our storm water management system and will allow us to achieve another goal that I've long been fighting for, and that, of course, is returning the Potomac and the Anacostia rivers to fishable and swimmable states. It's time to jump in, people. This is only the beginning of infrastructure improvements we can expect to see in the district. As chair of the Highways and Transit Subcommittee, I will be working on the Surface Transportation Bill, which will include funding to repair roads and bridges, not to mention resiliency improvements to combat climate change. Thank you again for this opportunity to speak. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce the next speaker, our own Mayor Muriel Bowser.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Thank you. Well, hello, everybody.
Hello, Mayor.
It is wonderful to be with you today. It is wonderful to recognize and be with the EPA administrator on his first in-person event right here in Washington, D.C., what we like to call the best city in the world and soon to be the 51st state. I also want to acknowledge our Congresswoman who has shepherded yet again the passage of H.R. 51 through House oversight, soon to be the entire House and on to the Senate. I, too, would like to acknowledge our council member for Ward 5. It's great to be in beautiful Ward 5, and Tommy Wells, the chair of the D.C. Water Board, and all of you. I want to echo what the Congresswoman has already said. I don't care how many trillions of dollars we talk about. When we talk about $156 million, that's a lot of money, especially when that $156 million will lessen the burden on DC Water ratepayers, of which I am one. So I appreciate that, Mr. Administrator. The work we are doing right now also helps us focus on two critical goals. We need, as everyone has said, to help Americans recover from this pandemic. And we're very grateful to the Biden-Harris administration. We're grateful to the members of Congress for ensuring that the American Rescue Plan is helping Americans recover from this pandemic, both the health crisis that it created as well as the economic crisis. Second, we also know that we need to do what allows us to continue making progress on all the important issues that we were focused on before the pandemic, like housing, education, and, of course, the environment. Tommy and I shared a just appreciation for what you just said, Congresswoman, because those rivers are getting very close to being swimmable and fishable. I think they're already fishable, but swimmable. The beauty of this loan will help us do all of those things, Mr. Administrator. So I know as you go around the country, You will talk to other mayors and other water directors, and they are going to express to you the same appreciation, but also express to you that more is on our plate to do. We know that for sure in D.C. Our water authority has been very focused, as you know, on making sure that we're building and being responsive to all the requirements of the EPA that's going to make our city more resilient. D.C. faces these costly investments to maintain our water and sewer infrastructure, and these investments right now are largely being funded by our residents. And while we have worked hard with D.C. Water and DOEE that Tommy leads to reduce that financial burden, we know there is so much that we can do locally. And so that's why all infusions of federal funding are appreciated by our authority, but certainly by regular D.C. residents who look at water bills each and every day and want to know that there is relief in sight. So thank you for this. And that's why this program is so critically important. It means that we can do more faster to clean our rivers. And it means that we can do more faster to stop flooding that has caused expensive property damage to homeowners right here in Ward 5. All of this is going to improve the day-to-day life of Washingtonians and help us build the resilient city that we need. I am also heartened and grateful for your focus on environmental sustainability and social equity. We know that this pandemic has had uneven impacts, and that's why the investments have to be oversized where they're needed the most. So I'm just so privileged to represent DC residents and saying welcome, but also being bold to say, hope to see you again soon. Thank you. I think now I have the pleasure of introducing a former member of the council for Ward 6 and now the director of the district's Department of Energy and the Environment and the chairman of D.C. Water, Tommy Wells.
Thank you, Mayor. People often say, well, which hat are you wearing today? So I just try to make it clear. It's so good to be here with all of you, but also on such a beautiful day to see you in person and to acknowledge my former colleague, Kenny McDuffie, who we worked together on the council, my boss, Muriel Bowser, who from day one when she was elected, when asked about the environment, Mr. Administrator, she said the same thing as you. What's good for the environment is good for our economy. And that has truly played out, been true, and I cannot be prouder than the accomplishments that we've made together. Then my Congresswoman, who is, we're in the same neighborhood, I get to see her a lot, and she has been such a great environmentalist. I know that Eleanor Holmes Norton works on so many different issues, but she's been an environmentalist her whole professional life, and thank you for your leadership. And then our general manager, David Gaddis. I have to say that, and it's not a competition, but we have the best utility, water, sewer leadership team in the United States. Mr. Gaddis, you have put together and you have led an incredible team. And I could not be prouder to be chair on behalf of the board of directors of the work that you and your team are doing, continuing to do, to innovate, and also take care of the most precious thing we have is our water. And so with that, now, I cannot say with enough excitement to acknowledge well, really not just as the chair of DC Water, but also on behalf of my partners, compatriots across the country that are directors and secretaries of environment in each state of the country, that the wisdom of our president to appoint someone that believes in science, is ready to tackle climate change, and understands the issue of equity in all those things. We are so excited to have you on board, and we're here to help. We're your partner, and like I did with Mr. Councilmember McDuffie, you're welcome to take a canoe ride with me on the Anacostia River, and we can talk foliage and all those things, but it's a good way to relax, and we have a beautiful river to do that on. As many of you know, we have the premier utility in the country and some of the best practices in the world. Well, one of those things you have to do is you have to continue, replace, and upgrade your infrastructure. You cannot say we're done, ever, and it's expensive. You know, the fact that we're 100 years later replacing a lot of these water mains, these water pipes, it's an investment that we make on behalf of the next generation that made that investment on behalf of us. And so these investments will last 50 to 100 years. It proves that we're being good stewards for the next generation and the generation afterwards. And we cannot do it without the partnership of our federal partners to be able to help us afford what it costs, what it takes in order to have a world-class city and soon to be a world-class state. So with that, I want to introduce my friend and colleague from here in Ward 5, Kenyon McDuffie, and again, a great partner for our work.
Thank you, Tommy. And thank you to everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. Goodness gracious, I know you all are used to being in the house, but we are in Ward 5, Madam Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. There we go. Let me recognize first our Advisory Neighborhood Commissioner, Lauren Rogers, who joined us here this afternoon. I also want to recognize my former boss, our warrior on the Hill, Eleanor Holmes Norton, General Manager Gaddis. Mr. Regan, I really appreciate this being the place that you decided to do your first in-person event. And I want you to know that you're always welcome back to Ward 5. My friend Tommy, who did take me in my first canoe ride and my first time ever on the Anacostia, as a third-generation native Washingtonian, it was probably a shock to some of you to learn that it was my first time out on the Anacostia, but I have not forgotten how beautiful it is, and frankly, how clean it is today because of some of the progressive laws that you championed and was supported by then Councilmember Bowser when you all were colleagues on the council. So thank you for that. And Madam Mayor, I really appreciate you being here. I know you are born and raised in Ward 5. You know this ward well. But let me tell you, when I first took office back in 2012, both Mr. Wells and Mayor Bowser were already on the council. And one of the first things I did was introduce a legislation to create an industrial land transformation task force. Why, you ask? Because Ward 5, where you all are seated here, has more industrial land than any other ward in the District of Columbia. And along with that industrial land comes businesses and jobs. Unfortunately, it always also comes some challenges. Like not too far from here, where Sarah lives with her family, she had been suffering from the fumes from paint spray booths emanating over from the business into her yard where her kids played in the backyard. We were suffering from the noxious fumes of trash transfer stations. The 3 trash transfer stations that are in the city are all in Ward 5, not too far from here, and they're all within about a half a mile of each other. We suffered a number of challenges because of the industrial land that we have here in the ward. But Mayor Bowser, one of the first things she did, which I remember vividly when she took office as mayor, was she said no to those who wanted to park more than 50 motor coaches that would likely idle and have toxic fumes emanating to the historic Ivy City community. She said no to that, and I won't forget it. And we've also worked together, along with Director Wells, to strengthen the regulations for those trash transfer stations. We've also beefed up enforcement for those would-be violators of our environmental laws. So when I think about this investment today, obviously the jobs are important, the investment in our communities is important, and Administrator Regan, I want you to know that it will be money well invested. We have some of the most progressive, bold climate laws of any jurisdiction in the United States. And I'm very proud to represent Ward 5, and I look forward to the partnership, the renewed partnership with our EPA. And so thank you again for your partnership. Mayor Bowser, thank you for your leadership. I look forward to working with General Manager Gaddis. We had some flooding that took place recently, and I know Commissioner Rogers was right there with me visiting Holmes. But Mayor Bowser and General Manager Gaddis were also on the ground shortly after the flooding took place to see firsthand the impact on our ward. And I appreciate our being able to work together to address some of the challenges that exist as a result of that historic flooding. And I want you all to know that we're going to work similarly in tandem to make sure that this is a wise, thorough, and important investment that you all are making with this loan today. So thank you all again, and thank you for thank you for being here in Ward 5. Appreciate it. And I have the pleasure of inviting Mayor Bowser back up to answer some questions. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Give Kenya McDuffie a big round of applause. Commissioner, thank you for being here as well. And let me also add my thanks to General Manager Gaddis, to the entire DC Water team who is here. You have a big job, an important job, in a grateful city. So thank you for your leadership. So I think now we're going to take a couple questions. Okay, questions? Yes, Sam.
Mayor, how does the city save money? You said 30. I guess not the city, DC Water save money, but the $30 million. Better interest rates? Is that what it is? Or?
Let me have General Manager Gaddis tell you exactly how he's going to put the money to work.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser. To answer your question, you are correct. It is low interest than what we can get in the marketplace, and as a result of that $30 million of savings, it allows us to move a number of the other projects that we may not have been able to get to move those forward now and continue to spend money and invest in our system and also in our customers and advancing our system and making things better for them. So yes, it is lower interest rates.
Of course, you know, we all got a big hit for the stormwater system. What does this mean? I mean, is it more improvements in addition to that, or what?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. There's more improvements. I mean, we have a capital plan that we have put together for the next 10 years, and all of those things are included in that capital plan. But what this does, this allows us to move some of those projects forward. Instead of them being 3, 4, 5 to 10 years out, we can make them more immediate as we begin to prioritize those capital improvement plans. So this savings definitely allows us to do those sort of things.
Of course, some of the water main breaks are a good television story, but in some senses, what is the condition of the let's say the water mains in the city? You know, again, we occasionally hear one, you know, spouting up.
So
are they in particularly bad shape here in Ward 5? I heard somebody say 1914, but
well, you know, DC is not unlike other East Coast cities in that we have an old system that we're dealing with. But I will tell you that we have a plan in place where we are addressing those issues. We're moving the entire replacement of that system faster than we ever have before. The plans were out to 100 years to getting some of those, you know, back to where they are. We're now 40 years, 30 years, and we're trying to even get them done quicker. And with the WIFIA loan and being able to save money, it allows us to expedite a number of those projects and replacing sewer and water mains in our system that are dated back to 1914 and older, some of them. So we do a great job, I think, at DC Water, taking a look at our entire system, looking at how many main breaks have occurred, also the quality of water in that system. And that's the most important thing, is the quality of water. And so when it's time to make the replacement, we make the replacement. And that's why our plan is a 10-year plan out. And as we move forward. So, you know, we're always looking ahead into what pipes do we need to replace in the system, do we need to renew, and those sort of things. Thank you.
Yes, Julie?
Hi. I was wondering if you could share some specifics about what some of these projects will be and how they'll actually work to prevent the kind of flooding that we saw in Ward 5 earlier this year.
Sure, General Manager.
So there are about 20 projects that we plan to invest about $320 million in, is what we plan to do. Those 20 projects are not just in Ward 5, they're throughout the entire district as we take a look at the system and begin to look at what do we need to replace. We know where that is at. As far as flooding goes, as Councilmember McDuffie spoke of, the September 10th flooding was that flooding that no system could have handled. But I will tell you, with the help of the mayor and help of council members, we've been able to do some things that we've never been able to do to make sure and the impact of those floods may not impact homes in the future. For example, the backflow preventer that we're putting in place in each one of the homes that fit that model from a GIS standpoint where flooding may happen again. We're trying to make sure that doesn't happen and make sure water or sewer water does not get back into those homes. So we're making that investment as well in the system. But without the help of the mayor and also Tommy Wells, our director, and also our chairman, he's wearing the chairman hat today, it wouldn't be possible for us to do that without their help. But those investments are being made to make sure that does not happen or to decrease that risk and that chance of it happening in the future.
So to make sure I'm understanding, it sounds like these projects are more about replacing aging pipes than about handling more stormwater, more overflow.
Without a doubt, you're correct.
Yes, sir. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Introduce yourself.
Yes. Good morning, Alex Guillen with Politico. I wanted to ask Administrator Regan, how do you take environmental justice into account as you're making these sort of WIFIA loans? Even in a city like D.C., how do you make sure that this money is being targeted to the right areas that need help and are historically disadvantaged as opposed to places like Georgetown?
Well, thank you for that question. And, about 2 weeks ago, I issued a directive to all of my offices at EPA to focus on integrating environmental justice and equity criteria in everything we do, integrating EJ and equity into the very DNA of our agencies. So we've got all of our senior executives right now taking a look at how we look at that on a micro level, meaning not just the rhetoric, but how do our program performance, adequately address equity and inclusion in all the decisions that we make. So we're working on operationalizing that. But there's no doubt in my mind that as we think about the premier candidates for these grants like DC Water, you heard it earlier in their remarks, you've heard it in my remarks, we're all taking environmental justice and equity very seriously and reflecting that in the work that we do on a daily basis.
Okay, any more questions? All right, thank you. I think there is something we have to do behind us.
What we'll be doing from here is we'll be walking over to the actual construction site where it is happening. So we invite everyone to walk over with us behind me, and we'll start heading that way. And you can take pictures and those sort of things if you'd like, and see the construction site itself. Thank you very much for coming.